Welcome to Talks with the Invisible Gardener. I'm Andy Lopez, your host. This is where we dig into soil health and learn how to grow smarter organically. Ready to clean up your garden and the planet? Let's go. Don't panic, it's organic. Gardener here, welcome back. Boy, if I got a show for you today, well, let's get right into it, okay? So today is how to properly water your plants. You know, I've been doing gardening, landscaping, organic spraying, all that stuff for literally thousands of years. And the one thing that I could tell you that everybody does in the beginning is they do not know how to water their plants. And it's a very major problem for them. So let's just cover a few things that's important. Before I start with this, and I didn't get to put it down in the notes, but one of the things about water that you have to be very careful if you really want to make your garden succeed is you have to get a garden filter. You have to filter out the water. You can get one for the whole property. It'd be very cool. You can always come up to my website, do the inquiry form, say, I want to know where you get that really cool water filter for the whole property. That makes a big difference. That's one of the major problems when people are watering, especially when they're water overhead. Roses don't like it because it literally destroys the good biology and the bad. I tell people the bad guys always come back first, right? So when you destroy all the good biology, the bad biology takes over, and that's what diseases are. That's why roses don't like it overhead. That's why many fruit trees can't handle too much water, because it's not the water so much, because when it rains in nature, they love that water. It's the water, city water. So one of the things I've learned to do, it's like cooking, okay? It's like cooking. It's that you can say, this is how you cook this recipe, and this is how you cook that. But in the end, you end up cooking it the way you want to, the way that works really well for you. So when I tell people about watering, and I like this picture because this picture shows one of the most important things. If you look at this, you'll see above and below, you see the root systems in the soil. And the soil is the key to it. The soil is healthy soil will soak up the water, last longer. Unhealthy soil will be dead, no worms, no air, porous. It does not hold water. Water which just runs right over it down the street. That's the poor soil. And so your plants are dying because they're not getting enough water. So the amount of water you give your plants really is determined by what kind of soil you have. So I'm glad this is like the first thing is soil health. That's exactly what we have to do, concentrate on soil health. And throughout the shows I do, all of it's geared towards soil health. All of it's geared towards the soil biology. And it varies from where you live and what part of the United States you live, or what part of the world you live, because every place has their own climate. Every place has their own microclimate as to what happens there, how they get watered. When I lived in Costa Rica, it rained every day and it dried out by the evening. At Miami, it was raining on a regular basis. Now I live in California, which is like, you're lucky if it rains consecutively over a couple of months, and then it's super dry. You have to water manually with the water system. So every place is a little different. One of the unique things about watering, and that makes it difficult for people, is you have a property, and on that property you probably have 50 plants. Usually they're all from various different parts of the world. So that's one of the things you're going to have to learn as to what plants need what, mainly with what kind of soil you have, okay? So I tell people that, the best way, I read a book called, Lazy Man's Guide to Gardening, okay? So one of the things I liked about this book, because, if you're, I'm not really a lazy gardener, but it really tells you a lot of how you can garden without really getting all too tired and overworked to make it super hard. And one of the things about this is water. Now, overhead water, you lose 75% of your water goes up in the air. It means 25% goes in the ground, absorbed by the plants. And so the ideal way to water is to water deep watering, not so often. People now water like 5, 2 or 3, 4 minutes every day. That's no good. For starters, you water, you only get maybe that. You can turn the system on and turn it off after the length of time you have the water, and check how far down the water goes. It doesn't go down very far at all. And if the water doesn't go down, the root systems are not going to go down at all, because they're looking for water and the water's on top. That's what's going to happen. Same thing with trees. You ever wonder when it rains, all the trees fall over, you see the shallow roots because you were watering shallow watering. Citrus, for example, they like to get watered once a week. nice, good deep water. That means that the soil gets soaked in, it's sitting in that water, and that water drains out, slowly drains out. When it drains out, this is like, it occurred to me a very similarity, because when I make my worm juice, I soak their bed, and it flows through and come out. It's the same thing with, and then I get this amazing tea, which is exactly what happens in the ground when you're watering your property. You have healthy living organism. The water comes through and circulates, and instead of draining out, the roots get it. See what I'm saying? The roots of the trees get it. That's how they get fed. So that's very important that you do deep watering, not so of trees. And so normally trees, you need to water them. Nobody waters them in nature. They've got water when it rains, and then they're healthy the rest of the year on their own. So maybe there's a river flowing by, or underground water. Usually the system is set up so you will get your water that you need. And a lot of times these trees and plants have a source of water year round, but you just don't see it. So, but your vegetable garden is another story, right? Your vegetables have shallow roots, and they need to get watered regularly. So it's important to still do the deep watering system. You ideally should install a drip system. A soaker hose it works really, really well, but you end up using a lot more water than you really need to. You'll use it. It depends also on a lot of times you would use the soaker hose around a plant that needs more water on the surface and on the ground. For example, roses will love drip system and will not like soaker system, because the soaker's evaporation comes up, whereas different types of beans and lettuces will like it, especially if it's during the summertime, really hot, the water vapor going up. It's fine for them. As I was saying, the idea that when I lived I've lived in various different states, and each state has their own ideal time to water. So I remember when I was in Florida, time I water was at night. That's how I got my name, Invisible Gardener. I would go out and water my plants at night, do some of my services at night. The water would not evaporate all night. Here in California, I go as early in the morning as possible. Ideally, I would go at night, right? I would go there at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, but customers don't want me on their property. So I go earlier in the morning. The earlier, the better, so that you don't want it to evaporate. Remember, you lose 75% of your water if you're watering this way overhead. So this is good for certain things, a refreshing drink for the plants. But you got to remember, if you're doing this and it's super hot, that's going to cause problems. So you always want to keep your watering below ground. If you're watering midday, right, especially if you're watering midday, water below ground. That was the bell. And so mulch is misunderstood, okay? I think of mulch, there's many things that I think mulch should be used for. But when you see wood chips, that's called decorative mulch, okay? Decorative mulch. That means it doesn't do anything, but it looks good. It covers a certain area, maybe protects it from the sun. Maybe when it gets wet a little bit, it'll soak the water up a little bit. But it takes forever to decompose and return as soil. So it could take years and years for those wood chips to break down to anything useful. So when I think of mulch, I think of a product that has already been decomposed down to where it doesn't take very long for it to start breaking up. Because what you want, one of the best things you want from mulch is you want it to decompose and be added to the organic matter of the soil. Mulch is like, the ideal scenario with mulch would be, it's carbon-based, it's carbon. So when it gets broken up, the biology eats the carbon, you see, right? So if you have something that, the biology we eat rocks, but it'll take a long time. So if you want something that can be decomposed in a relatively quick time, that just means you're going to have to add it on a regular basis, see? And if you have a worm farm, you can literally throw the worms in there once you have this environment, and you'll see the worms will start to survive. Once the worms are alive and healthy, you know that you have a good environment and you're watering the right amount. If you water too much, you're going to kill the worms, right? The worms can't swim. You don't water enough, they dry out. The same thing with the soil biology. So the other hard part, people seem to have a hard time is watering when they should be watering, rather than just like a zombie. I want to water every Monday morning at 8, and so regardless of what's going on, right? And so I learned I like the little worm underneath it. The worm is testing the soil too. These testing devices are good, But the best testing device I have is my fingers. I stick them in there, look around. If it feels moist, you can tell. If it feels moist, then it's moist. You leave it alone. So you want to let the water, you want to let everything dry out in between watering. That's important. Where you don't want to leave things wet all the time, soaking wet all the time. In a container plant, it's really easy to do. If you see water sitting in the tray, don't water. You can you get one of these little moisture meters. They go down maybe 6 inches. It'll tell you if it's water down there. You can do that in your soil. There are lots of ways you can test for water without the water meter. I've learned from experience how to tell when it's dry or when it's too wet. You can even check the soil and squeeze it. If it's wet, you'll be able to squeeze water out of it. So you want the soil to be moist, but not soaking wet all the time. And then you want to give it some dryness in between. So I tell people it's okay to water Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and Saturday and Sunday you don't water, you let it dry out. That's where like a homeowner, property. It depends on the area too, because lots of places you want to get away with watering twice a week. So it's 2 days out of 7 days, 5 days you're not getting water. And that really depends again on the health of your soil. So most people can handle 3. And some people around here, I know they have to water 4 times a week because they have no soil. All they're doing is just keeping plants from drying out, which is what happens if you skip a watering period. And then as I said before, it's important to keep the water. Ideally, the water should be below ground. That's the best scenario. If you have water. So this Lazy Man's Guide to Gardening, he buried the drip lines, and the way he did this was very interesting too, because he would put different layers down. That's how Mother Nature does it. He would get cardboard. He even got some cotton rugs, cotton clothing. He would lay layer down on layers, and in there was this drip line. And eventually put like different kinds of hay on top, and so everything compacted down. People would say, "How this was in the desert?" People would say, "What are you doing?" The water was below ground. And so the trick there is to water just as much as it needs, not too much. You don't want to sit in water for too long. It'll kill the root systems. It'll kill the natural biology. And remember, you really want to have a filtered clean water system for your property. If you buy a water filter for your home, to take a shower and to drink, you know what's going on, and you want that on your property. That will make a big difference, because you will always be killing the soil biology, killing the worms, killing everything that makes everything, the soil biology that makes it healthy. It's the soil biology that makes it healthy. So it's going to be unhealthy because the biology is not there. It keeps getting attacked. That's why ideally you want to start learning to make compost. You want to learn how to constantly be adding the best biology back to your soil as you can. In the long run, you should bite the bullet and buy the water filter, because it will save you a lot of money in the long run. And so, like I said, I lived in Boulder, I lived in Austin, I lived in Gainesville. Each one of these had very different climates, very different environment. In Florida, I never saw snow, right? Whereas in Boulder, there's some heavy snow seasons that are happening all the time. And in Austin, Texas, it depends on what part of Austin, what part of Texas, where you see snow or not. So what makes a difference here besides the season is the soil. The soil structure is very, very different depending on where you live on the earth, right? So you have to learn how to water within the seasons. Lots of places you don't even water during the springtime because it rains all the time. I know in Florida it was raining all the time. You don't have to worry about water. Just turn the water off. Over here you have to water for more. So everywhere you go, it's going to be very different seasons that you have to pay attention to. Try to catch the rainwater if you can. And so I should have said that. Don't forget the rain. You have to catch. Ideally, I would catch the rainwaters if possible. But lately, I've been reading about how even rainwater is becoming toxic now. They call it acid rain, a bunch of other stuff. So get the garden filter. That would make a big difference for you. Make everything grow even healthier. One of the problems with when the biology of the soil gets destroyed is that it's the biology that feeds the plants, and so the plants are going to start starving and showing all kinds of nutritional deficiency. So don't overwater and don't underwater. It's like you're going to have to learn the right amount. If you feel like you're going to have to you want to water, I would wait a day, right, and give it another day, and The type of trees that you have, whether it be a small container or a large tree, yeah, they all require a different amount of water. The little container plant, you may have to water more often because I have plants here, for example, and now it's summertime, it's really super hot. I literally have to water them 3 or 4 times a week because they dry right out, little container. Whereas the trees out in front out here, I only water them maybe once a month. You see, so you learn how and it's good deep watering. I don't have a drip system, but I'm working on getting out. But the trees don't even need a drip system. What I do is go out there with a hose with a filter on it, and I give them a nice soak, nice hand soaking. I also have my machine, a spraying machine, which is really cool because they get to get my liquid, and I spray the liquid on their property, spray the biology back on again, and so they're doing really good as well. And remember, the reason why wet leaves provide for fungus is because the city water kills the natural biology that controls it. So if you have filtered water, you don't have to worry about your leaves getting wet. As a matter of fact, what you want to do is you want to be spraying all the time with liquid that's rich in biology. Because in nature, Mother Nature, the leaves are moist. If you go in a forest, you see the air is full of the biology. The leaves literally drip down with all this biology. If you look at a microscope through the leaves, you can see the biology all over the leaf. It needs a certain amount of moisture. See, and that makes it. That's why these plants are tropical in nature, and they're used to the biology on their leaf. They're used to having living organisms take care of it. But without that, yeah, there was this. What I say is the good guys and the bad guys don't live in the same place. So if you have the good guys are gone, which is what the city water does, or any kind of chemicals or toxins will kill the biology. Then the bad guys are the ones that are going to show up. So you have to be real careful about your watering, and that's probably one of the weaknesses, because if you overwater, you underwater, it breaks down the ability of plants to absorb nutrition and minerals. And eating and being healthy is the most important thing you want with these plants, because as soon as the plants get stressed out and they start showing signs of trace mineral deficiencies, they will get attacked by either diseases or pests. As a matter of fact, the way it works is that pests are vectors for the disease. It means that pests will say, that plant is weak, I'm going. And throughout its history, these bacteria, diseases, have learned to hitchhike with the pest. And when the pest attacks the plant, it's also perfect for the disease to grow. So that's it in a little nutshell. So just take care of your water, right? Make like you're drinking this stuff. You want the best water you're going to drink. Give it the best water that to your garden as well. So thank you for coming by. Why don't you guys go out and brew some tea? Take care now. Bye. It's been great. I'm Andy Lopez. Thanks for hanging out with me on Talks with the Invisible Gardener. If you like what you heard, hit follow, drop a like, and leave a comment. I actually read them. Want more good dirt? Visit invisiblegardener.com. And remember, don't panic, it's organic.